15 years of loyalty, 15 years of expertise, 15 years of making this company millions, gone in a single meeting. It wasn't a surprise, not to me, but they had no idea that while they were planning my exit, I was already orchestrating theirs. I sat in that cold, lifeless conference room, listening to my boss recite the same rehearsed lines they'd probably used on dozens before me. We're restructuring. Your role has been made redundant. This decision was not easy. She barely made eye contact. HR sat beside her, silent but watchful, a manila folder already in hand. I knew exactly what was inside. Severance papers, non-disclosure agreements, a list of career counseling services I would never use. I nodded, keeping my expression neutral. I understand. A flicker of relief crossed my boss's face. They expected pushback, maybe even a breakdown. After all, who wouldn't panic after losing their job of 15 years? But I wasn't panicked. I wasn't even upset, because I had seen this coming. Weeks ago, an email had landed in my inbox, a mistake. A single misdirected message buried in a thread of corporate jargon. I almost deleted it without reading. Almost. But something in the subject line caught my eye. Upcoming personnel adjustments. And just like that, I knew. I wasn't meant to be on that email, but now I had a front row seat to the conversations happening behind closed doors. I scrolled through the thread, reading every word. It wasn't just a restructuring. It was a calculated move to phase me out, to transition my work to other teams while conveniently removing my name from the credits. They weren't just firing me, they were erasing me, and they thought I wouldn't see it coming. That's when I made my decision. I wouldn't fight this. I wouldn't beg for my job or try to change their minds. I would let them walk right into the biggest mistake of their lives. Because while they were making their plans in secret, I was making mine. And I had something they didn't, a ticking time bomb, hidden in plain sight. For years, I had been the architect of this company's most valuable technology, the algorithm that powered their most profitable product. It was mine. But what they didn't realize, they had never secured the patent. A simple oversight, a careless mistake, one they had failed to correct. And by the time they did, it was too late. Because I had already filed the patent myself, under my name. They thought they were getting rid of me, but really, they were setting me free. And when they finally realized the magnitude of their mistake, it would be far, far too late. The meeting ended faster than I expected. My boss and the HR rep sat across from me, watching for any sign of emotion, anger, tears, desperation. But I gave them nothing, just a polite nod and a steady voice. "Thank you for the opportunity," I said, placing the severance package into my bag without even opening it. Another flicker of relief crossed their faces. They had expected a fight, a pleading moment, maybe even an outburst. They didn't get one. Because I had already won. I stood up, smoothing my jacket as my boss, still trying to mask her discomfort, added, "We'd like you to clear out your desk by Friday." I smiled. Of course. She mistook my politeness for submission. She thought I was walking away quietly, taking my severance check like a good little corporate soldier. But in reality, I wasn't just leaving, I was taking everything with me. Not my office supplies or personal items, those were meaningless. No, I was taking something far more valuable, their future. The moment I stepped out of that conference room, my phone buzzed. A single message from a name they never would have expected. "Everything's ready. See you tonight?" I typed back one word. Perfect. Then I walked to my office, past the rows of employees who had no idea what was about to happen, past the executives who still believed they were in control, past the glass-walled boardroom where, in just a few days, absolute chaos would unfold. I sat down at my desk, took a deep breath, and sent one final email to my team. "I want you all to hear it from me first. Friday is my last day. It's been an honor working with you." One by one, responses poured in. Shock, sadness, confusion. But soon another message arrived. "We need to talk. Something feels off." I smiled. They didn't know it yet, but they were about to have a very easy decision to make. That evening, I arrived at a high-end restaurant on the other side of the city, not the kind of place you go for casual drinks. This was a venue for power moves. I was escorted to a private table, hidden behind sleek partitions. Waiting for me was the CEO of my former company's biggest competitor, a man who had once been my adversary but was now my greatest ally. He gestured to the chair opposite him. So they actually did it. I took my seat, a slow smile forming. They did. He shook his head. Unbelievable. firing the one person who understands the core technology they rely on. They think they own it, I said simply. He leaned forward. Do they? I slid a folder across the table. Not anymore. Inside was the patent, filed under my name, legally binding, ironclad. He flipped through the pages, taking in the implications. A slow grin spread across his face. This is going to be fun, he murmured. I took a sip of my drink. For us, yes. For them? It was about to be a nightmare. Monday arrived like a storm. I wasn't in the office, but I didn't need to be. The moment the news dropped, my phone exploded with messages. It started with an industry press release. TechVantage's former lead innovator joins rival company as chief innovation officer. And then, just an hour later, the bombshell. New patent filing shakes tech industry. Ownership rights in question. Inside corporate headquarters, panic set in. They didn't realize what had happened until it was too late. The executives, the legal team, the CEO, one by one, they started connecting the dots. And then the real disaster struck. A meeting was called, an emergency executive session. Desperate emails were sent. Then, at 9:30 a.m. sharp, my phone vibrated. The name on the screen? Victor Lawson, CEO. I let it ring. Then a second email came through. Kira, there appears to be a misunderstanding. Please call me at your earliest convenience. I forwarded it to my legal team without replying. By noon, industry analysts were tearing the company apart. TechVantage loses rights to key algorithm. What's next? Stock drops amid patent controversy. Innovation or oversight? How one company let their most valuable asset slip away. Their stock price plummeted. Investors started demanding answers. Clients were calling, concerned about the future of the software they had built their businesses around. And me? I was sitting in my new office, overlooking the city skyline, watching as the empire I had built for them crumbled in real time. By the afternoon, messages from my old team started pouring in. They're freaking out. The board is in emergency mode. What did you do? I typed the same response to each of them. Check your personal email. Because waiting for them was a contract, a job offer, with a company that actually valued them. One by one, they made their decision. And by the end of the day, my former employer wasn't just losing me. They were losing everyone who had ever made them successful. The company was spiraling. By Tuesday morning, my phone buzzed with updates from my former team still trapped inside TechVantage. The emergency meeting that had started on Monday had turned into an ongoing crisis. They pulled every file with your name on it. One message read, "Legal is scrambling. The CTO looks like he hasn't slept." And then, from Miguel, my most trusted engineer, "They're trying to figure out if they can fight this." I smirked. They could try, but they'd fail. Because while they were panicking, trying to piece together what had happened, my new company was surging ahead. At Precision Systems, we weren't just celebrating. We were strategizing. Monday had been the shockwave. Tuesday was when they realized this wasn't just bad press. This was an extinction-level event. By noon, another major publication ran with the headline, "TechVantage's crown jewel no longer theirs. How one patent changed the game." The stock took another hit. By mid-afternoon, two of their biggest corporate clients had reached out to Precision Systems, wanting to discuss transitioning away from TechVantage's software. And by the evening, I got the message I had been waiting for. Victor Lawson had called again. This time, 5 times in a row. When I didn't answer, he tried a different approach. An email. Short, desperate, barely hiding his fear. "Kira, we need to talk. There must be a way to resolve this." I stared at the message for a moment. Then, without hesitation, I forwarded it to my legal team. The response they crafted was beautiful, ruthless. All licensing inquiries should be directed to Precision Systems Legal Counsel. We are happy to discuss terms for continued use of the patented technology. Translation? If they wanted to keep their company afloat, they would have to pay me, at a rate we determined, for a product they thought they owned. I could only imagine Victor's face when he read that. The cracks were turning into fractures. By Wednesday, I was receiving inside reports that TechVantage had started losing engineers. It wasn't just my team. Other senior developers saw the writing on the wall. They knew the product was doomed without my algorithm. "They're jumping ship," Miguel texted me. "Executives are scrambling to keep them." "Let me guess," I replied. "Empty promises? More stock options?" "Exactly. It's not working." I leaned back in my chair, satisfied. Without the talent, the company had nothing. And if they thought this was bad, the worst was still coming. Because late that afternoon, TechVantage's largest investor, a multi-billion-dollar firm that had significant money tied up in their stock, issued a statement. It was brutal. "We are reviewing our position in TechVantage following recent intellectual property concerns." Translation: they were about to pull out. And once that happened, it was over. Thursday morning, I got a call from Greg, my new CEO. He didn't even bother with a greeting. "They're going to cave," he said. I smiled. "Already?" "They don't have a choice. Their investors are threatening to pull funding. Their clients are panicking, and their stock is tanking." I let that sink in for a moment. 15 years I had given to that company, 15 years of ideas, of breakthroughs, of loyalty, and they had tossed me aside like I was nothing. But now, they were about to pay for their mistake. That afternoon, TechVantage's board called an emergency meeting. The agenda? How to fix the catastrophe. But by this point, there were only two options left on the table: pay Precision Systems an exorbitant licensing fee to continue using the algorithm, rebuild their entire technology from the ground up, a process that would take years and cost millions. Neither option was good, and they knew it. By 4 p.m., I got another message from Miguel. "Victor is losing it. They're reviewing the licensing terms. He looks like he's about to explode." I chuckled. I could picture it. Victor, the man who had dismissed me, who had taken credit for my work, who had thought he could erase my contributions without consequence. Now, he was sitting in a boardroom, realizing he had no control left, and it was only going to get worse. Friday morning. The headline hit before I even had my first coffee. TechVantage in leadership crisis, CEO under fire. They were eating their own. By midday, another announcement followed. TechVantage officially enters licensing negotiations with Precision Systems. They didn't even try to hide it. The board had forced Victor's hand. It was done. They had lost. By the end of the day, my legal team confirmed it. TechVantage was officially negotiating to license my work back from me. And the best part? As part of the deal, they would have to publicly acknowledge me as the inventor. The person they tried to erase, the person they thought was replaceable, the person who now controlled their future. That evening, Greg called again. This time, he was laughing. "Phase 1 is complete," he said. I let out a slow breath, looking out the window of my new office. It wasn't just about winning, it was about recognition. For years, I had watched others take credit for my ideas. I had been overlooked, dismissed, undervalued. Not anymore. I had built something powerful, and now, for the first time, the entire industry knew it. And TechVantage? They would never make the same mistake again. The aftermath was swift and brutal. By Monday morning, TechVantage was in full-blown damage control. The licensing negotiations were public knowledge now, and industry analysts were dissecting every detail. Investors were furious, customers were nervous, and employees? They were already looking for the exits. Victor Lawson had been unusually silent since Friday. No press appearances, no company memos, nothing. That wasn't a good sign for him. A CEO in hiding during a corporate meltdown was a CEO who wouldn't be around for much longer, and I knew exactly why. Because that morning, another email landed in my inbox, this time from TechVantage's board of directors. Not Victor, not Marjorie, the board. "Dr. Jennings, we would like to formally discuss a resolution to the current situation. Our goal is to reach a mutually beneficial agreement." Mutually beneficial? I almost laughed. Mutually beneficial meant they had nothing left to bargain with. If they had leverage, they wouldn't be calling me. I forwarded the email to my legal team. They already knew what to do. By Tuesday, the cracks in TechVantage's leadership had become unignorable. A leaked memo hit the press, an internal document that revealed just how unprepared they had been for my departure. Immediate concerns regarding the stability of our core technology following Dr. Jennings's exit. Rebuilding the lost functionality may take significantly longer than anticipated. Clients are requesting assurances we cannot currently provide. They weren't just losing customers. They were losing credibility. And in the tech world, that was worse than losing money. By the afternoon, another text from Miguel came in. "It's happening. The board just called an emergency meeting. Victor looks wrecked." I leaned back, exhaling slowly. I had waited for this moment. Victor had always been the golden boy, the executive who took credit for my work, the one who stood on stage at conferences talking about his company's innovations, when those innovations came from my brain, and now? Now he was a liability. By Wednesday morning, the headline dropped, Victor Lawson steps down as TechVantage CEO amid patent fallout. There it was, his career, his legacy, shattered because of his arrogance. He thought he could replace me. Instead, he had ruined himself. The fallout wasn't over. By Thursday, more dominoes started falling. Marjorie Thompson? Gone. The company's chief legal officer? Gone. TechVantage was cleaning house, trying to stop the bleeding. But it was too late. Their most valuable clients, the ones who had been watching closely, started pulling out of contracts. Not all at once, not dramatically, but quietly, systematically. One by one, they started calling Precision Systems, my company. Greg was the one who told me. We just got another call, he said, grinning. A big one, a Fortune 500 company. They want to transition off of TechVantage's platform. He let the words sink in. That's the third one this week. TechVantage wasn't just bleeding. They were dying. By the end of the month, the industry had settled into a new reality. Precision Systems had officially surpassed TechVantage in market value. Their stock was still floundering, trying to recover from the biggest strategic disaster in company history. And the best part? The licensing deal. After weeks of negotiation, TechVantage had no choice but to accept our terms. They would pay triple the standard industry licensing fee to continue using my technology. And in exchange, they had to make a public statement. A statement acknowledging that the core innovation behind their flagship product had been developed by me. For years, they had tried to erase my name. Now, they were forced to put it front and center. The press release went out on a Friday. It was clinical, cold, clearly written by lawyers. But the words were there. TechVantage recognizes the contributions of Dr. Jennings in the development of our core algorithm. Recognition, the thing I had never received while working for them. Now, they had no choice but to say my name. 3 months later, I stood on stage at one of the biggest tech conferences of the year. A year ago, I had sat in the audience while Victor stood on this very stage, boasting about his company's innovations. But today, it was me standing at the podium, Mr. the keynote speaker, the name on every industry insider's radar. I looked out at the crowd, engineers, executives, reporters, investors. And then I began. Today, I want to talk about innovation, about the people behind it, the ones who build, create, and invent. A pause. And the importance of giving them credit. I didn't have to name TechVantage directly. Everyone in the room already knew. The whispers had spread across the industry, the cautionary tale of what happens when a company underestimates the very people who build their success. By the time I finished my speech, the applause was deafening. I stepped off the stage, my phone vibrating in my pocket. It was Greg. His message was short. Check the stock numbers. I pulled up the market feed and smiled. Precision Systems, my company, had just hit a record high. TechVantage, their stock had dropped another 4%. Their slow collapse wasn't over. But my rise, it was just getting started.